tonight, I'm speaking as Tom White only, but also with the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights, which is a nationwide organization that's tried to fight the good fight. Now, I'm concerned, and that's what draws me here tonight. I imagine that all of you are here for that same reason. I don't know if you remember, but back in 1981 on Channel 5, I did an editorial reply on divorce. At that time, the station was advocating a 30-day waiting period. I brought out Fulton Sheen's comments at the time that a wise person, is the way I put it, not Fulton Sheen, once said that international order evaporates by the breaking of the marriage vows and all these other vows that we make in the public arena. And I brought out statistics. I contacted the Department of Vital Statistics with the federal government, found out that there was 19 years from the early 60s until the 80s, one year after another, after another, after another, there was more divorces than the year earlier. And in 1981, we had 1,275,000 divorces in this country. Now, if that doesn't bother you, it definitely bothers me. Now, my mother was a single parent, 4 children. We came from Ohio. My father was a military man in the USOs, and I suffer the effect of a broken family. We lived in all the terrible places one would want to live in, and now I live for the last 25 years down at the corner of Beacon and Arlington Street in downtown Boston, a very lovely building, and worked for a major airline for 21 years in customer service. I've defended the church's position and the Holy Father on Channel 4 television, but people are talking. I've defended the church against Father Andrew Greeley and his comments in his books and so on, in which I said just a few things, and in the Herald the next day, the Boston Herald, it said, Father Greeley came to town, his new book, The Cardinal Sins, and everything was fine until this one Catholic layman got up, and then all hell broke loose. And I was glad to do it for our Lord. And that's what draws me here tonight. It's the same reason. We have a problem in the United States and in the world. And the problem is, if you think about it in terms of bread, because Jesus always used examples, little stories. Bread, we're supposed to make with 3 ingredients: water, salt, and yeast. Flour, 4. You can put other things, but those are necessary ingredients. Now, if you put too much yeast in or leaven, what ends up happening? It just blows out of proportion. If you put too little in, what happens? Hard as a rock. So the important thing is that the church has a role in the world, and that is to be the leaven in society. But what happens when the church, quote unquote, I'm talking about the people out here, some of the priests maybe up here, who've gone to sleep. But that's where the problem lies. We have given up belief in contraception, gay rights, abortion, all these things. If we talk about Representative Kennedy, I attempted to run against him last year, received 1,400 signatures and needed 2,000. Unfortunately, the weather was against me, or otherwise I would have been happy to tangle with him last year. Hopefully I would have been a good representative. Now getting to the question of annulments. Think about this. Do you think that a person who entered into a marriage to a homosexual has a right to see if they have a case for the dissolution of that quote-unquote marriage? How about intention against fidelity. Like say you were going to have more than one sexual partner. You can go on with, how about if you did it for the sake of getting out of the military like in the past? Remember, there's 76 million divorces, I believe it is, in the United States. People involved in divorces today. That's an awful lot of shipwrecks. Now, Father used the analogy earlier of a hurricane. I would say that if you looked at Pope Leo XIII's encyclical on unity in the Church, when I argued my points with Sister Teresa Kane, who insulted the Pope when he came to the United States, I said simply this: Sister, in Leo XIII's encyclical it says, there are those who are safely in the bark of St. Peter, and there are those who are hanging on ropes perilously on the side of the bark of St. Peter, and there are those who are like worthless grains of sand who are just floating in the ocean. So my concern is that we go away from tonight with something learned, not just taught. Here's a book, the Pope's book, Love and Responsibility. It's taken from his talks when he was at the University of Lublin, I think it was. Tremendous book. You may have to read it 2 or 3 times to really understand tenderness, the meaning of person. I was a talk show host on Another View. There's the issues of the day from a Catholic perspective. These 2 priests, Father Richard Hogan and John Lavoie, were guests on my program from 2 different states, and that was called Covenant of Love. It was based on the talks given by the Holy Father in Rome on his Wednesday audiences. Look at Robert Bork in Slouching Towards Gomorrah, where he says that the trend says that we're heading toward our probable destination, according to trends, is Gomorrah. But that if we have the courage of the will and the strength to fight, we can change the direction of what's happening. And finally, I'd like to just bring this other 2 books which will help you. One is called Annulments, Do You Have a Case? It's by Terence Tierney. This can be got at the Prudential Center Chapel, where I'm a lector for the last 13, 14 years. And also The Pope Speaks. The current one talks about divorce. So I think there's a lot that's out there that we're not listening to. Or maybe we're not aware that these documents are out there to help us learn. Because the Holy Father said it best, and I'll sum up by just saying this. That he says, and Mr. Delry, one of the big fighters of pro-life, is right there. I've been in front of abortions clinics with him in years past, and we've gone here and gone there. He said that we're going to build a culture of love on this culture of death. Now, we can change things, and we can change them in a good way that will help society. It'll help Catholics, and it'll help society. And although I didn't address annulments completely, it's just an opening statement. And I'll be happy to answer questions at the time if we have some, and I hope that I'll have the good answers for you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Tom. Now we'll have the 3rd affirmative constructive.